Hello again, traders, and welcome out. This is Ankit from Maverick Currencies here, and this is a Maverick Currency preview for the US Payroll Report that's due tomorrow at about 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, as always, let's prepare for it. Let's take a look at what the market mood is, what the sentiment is, and how we're going to position ourselves going into this report tomorrow. So, let's just start with, okay, what's the expectation? So, if we just take a look at what we had earlier this week by the private jobs ADP number, I mean, we actually had a bit of a slowdown there. So 127,000 versus 196. So we are definitely noticing a bit of a slowdown in that number there. We also had the JOLTS job openings. They were actually rose a little bit. So, I mean, going to this report tomorrow, one thing, we have seen this phenomena over and over again is the good news is bad news for the markets and bad news is good news for the markets. So if this jobs report comes out weaker, we're kind of expecting the opposite. We're expecting if the jobs report comes out really good, that's bad for the markets. And if that numbers comes out much weaker than expected, or let's say the unemployment rate will kind of rise more than expected, then that's a bad. If that happens, it's a good news for the market. So just gonna point that out that this is something we gotta keep in mind when we go to these jobs reports. So when we take a look at the market sentiment, I mean, right now. We had pretty solid moves so far this week. Canadian dollar being the weakest. We had the dollar being really weak, and we have seen some relative strength in Aussie and the Kiwi and the Euro. So really, to sum it up, like this week has been the big week for the for the dollar. And while the dollar pulls back and everything kind of rises up against it, minus the CAD. I mean, CAD and dollar has been doing the exact same thing. So I think we have to really take a look at in the next 24 hours, where are we going to put ourselves in this relative strength and weakness? So before we talk about any sort of strategies, there's always three types of trades that we can make around the news events. Either it's before the news, enter on the news, or second stage. Since it's a Friday, it's you have to kind of really think about the second stage and how far that needs to be because you have the limited period to enter the trade on. But there's always we kind of opt for the enter on the news, especially news events where it can really go either way. There's not a whole lot of the sentiment or the momentum's telling us one way or the other. So what we get is a report and we get an initial impact right away on one way or the other. So in that case, we want to be entering on the news. We have to worry about slippages. Again, that's something that when you're trading news events, you're not always expecting perfect fills, but that's why we talk about doing or using proper orders like stop limit orders instead of just the stop orders. So then that creates a window for yourself in case the price action kind of have a slippage. Whipsaws are the other ones that we don't like, but lately I've actually noticed that we don't really get a lot of whipsaws. We either get a big move one way or the other. So which again, our goal is to find or capture that move quickly, whichever way it happens. So let's do a bit of a trade setup analysis. Let's take a look at the charts and see which setup looks the best going into tomorrow. So again, we talked about how Aussie, not the Aussie, actually Kiwi is the one that is looking like the best so far out there. So outside of the Kiwi, again, let's start with the dollar. So dollar looks pretty weak, but notice where the dollar is, right at the 200 moving average. So, it's I think a lot of the bad news probably already kind of priced in here. I mean, dollar is already very weak. So in that case, I think we have to really be the advocate here and see, okay, which way we can find the biggest move. And I think the biggest move can come both ways, especially if the jobs report comes out better than expected. I think we can see an initial push to the upside in the dollar. But just keep in mind the momentum is very weak on the dollar. So while the dollar kind of is there doing its thing, Canadian dollar, we also have the jobs report for Canada as well. But again, take a look at it. They're doing the exact same thing. So whenever you get something like this, then it's just better just to see, okay, what's working? Where do I need to pay attention to? The biggest one, dollar yen, is the one that has been the biggest mover, especially with the negative correlation that we are seeing here. But again, same thing. It's approaching this 200 moving average. So again, I think we have to really use that as a support, 134.54 as our support, and see if we can break that. I think there will be good news event, and there'll probably be good price action off of that, especially if there's a surprise. So outside of that, I mean, we can also take a look at euro dollar, which also had a nice little breakout today. Again, so if you're looking for continuation, I mean, this thing already clear up against the moving average here, the 200 moving average. So again, these are the things that are working. So we can actually expect further upside when something is already moving. Pound dollar, you can see it's already broken above the 200 moving average. So I mean, at this point, if I really have to look at the charts, which again, looking at the risk to reward right now, everything is kind of pointing out to the upside. But as we trade the news events, we always kind of have to be prepared for a curveball to kind of thrown at us in case something is different. If the jobs report is not as has a big impact on this, and the dollar kind of reverses. If the dollar does reverse, what do you want to pair it with? I think I mean, I was actually been watching dollar Swiss franc as a very nice little support area here, but that kind of gave up as well. So I will be curious to see if this try to reclaim that or it just stays below it. So I think dollar Swiss franc kind of goes on the list here. But again, I think dollar yen is going to be the one. It's regardless of which way it moves, I think there will be a big move one way or the other. So I think dollar yen is the one that I'm really looking forward to trading this one. If it continues to collapse further, we already know that the 100-day moving average is at about 134.50 is the next support. There's a 100 pip stop or 100 pip till the next support here. But I think after that, there's definitely more support right around 131 area. So there's decent levels to kind of catch here. So I think it's just a matter of let's see what kind of jobs report we get tomorrow, and based on that, we'll just set everything up. As always, we'll be meeting tomorrow morning at about 8:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we'll be going through the markets in the morning and see what things are how things are looking, and then make trades accordingly. Again, the dollar CAD is going into this as a weak, and then we have the Kiwi and the pound as showing relative strength. So that's where the relative strength of weakness is. But again, we always have to look for the both case scenario, the best case scenario for the dollar and the CAD, and the worst case scenario for the dollar and CAD. Thanks for joining. Enjoy the rest of the evening. We'll see you in the early morning in the class. Take care.